Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women. Welcome to Attorney Commander Galpohkpa Chesson talk show. This evening we have a very special show, as I promised you. But as always, it's Murphy's Law. When things going to go wrong, they go wrong. So I just been having a little problem. Sorry for coming on late. So Representative RANGLIN-VASSELL is here, and she'll soon be coming on. We're having this interview because our communities, especially my community, needs to be enlightened of what's happening in the state. And for us, this is one of the mediums to get your message across. So we are here tonight. Last week we had Jim Vincent. Tonight we have Representative MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL. So let me bring her on and let me welcome her. How are you, Representative? How are you today?
Well, thank you.
Yes, it's good to have you. Good evening.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, Rep. So, Rep, we got a few questions to start off this interview with. Let me just change my screen, then I can bring you in more clearly. Okay, just hold on 1 minute.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's good to have you here, Rep. And let me just get my. I got two sheets of questions for you. I forgot. Okay, Rep. Let's start off this interview. Everybody almost know you, Rep. You've been on our show, but this is your first interview with me, and I want to thank you and invite you onto my platform. So even though people know about you, my platform goes wider than Rhode Island. So please take a minute or two and briefly tell us who Representative MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL is.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you do, you and your lovely wife. I want everyone to know that you're a gem and a treasure here in Rhode Island and in the diaspora. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. As you said, I am State Rep MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL, and I was elected in 2016. I am now in my third term in the Rhode Island General Assembly, and I am so grateful for my neighbors who have elected me the third time to represent them in the General Assembly and to represent our shared values of how you treat people, how you treat the environment, and how you treat people who are really down on their luck. So I just want to begin by saying thank you to my neighbors who have put their faith and their trust in me to represent our shared values in the General Assembly. As State Rep, I represent the Elmhurst, Woonsocket, and Charles neighborhood, of which you're a part. So, you know, I am so grateful that you chose your rep to be on your show. So thank you so much. I ran for office because I thought I could make a difference. I ran for office in 2016. I'm a public school teacher here in Rhode Island. I started my teaching career in Kingston, Jamaica, and here I am in Providence, Rhode Island, still fighting to provide access in education for children. So I am not new to the fight for justice. It's what I do. And the really amazing thing about it, Rodney, is that I am not doing this alone. I have an army of people who share my value, and they're doing this fight with me. So I'm so grateful to be in this fight with everyone else.
Thank you, Rep. Rep, Representative for House District number 5.
Yes, that's correct.
In Providence. Firstly, you briefly stated what areas you cover. Could you go over that again? Because that was in the introduction. So this is dealing with your area specifically.
Absolutely. Thank you.
everybody don't have an idea where Elmhurst is and other places. Maybe you could give a better description of streets that would give an idea.
So it's if you're in Rhode Island, I am in the Providence College area, the Charles Street area, and the Admiral Street area, closer to North Providence. And I represent every single person. 14,000 people are my constituents. That every time I go to the State House or every time I introduce a bill, I'm introducing it for them on behalf of my neighbors. But I'm also introducing those bills for all Rhode Islanders. Rhode Islanders, we're all in this together. And so when I stand up and I speak, I go to the State House and I bring the voices of not just my neighbors in House District 5, Charles, Woonsocket, and Elmhurst, but I bring the voices and the concerns and the needs of Rhode Islanders all over the state. And this is what I've been doing, and I'm committed to this fight until we have justice.
Thank you, Rep. My second question is, could you tell our viewers what is the state of Rhode Island?
That's a really good question, Rodney. Thank you so much for it. What is the state of Rhode Island? I think the state of Rhode Island is hopeful. Excuse me, I really think it's hopeful, because when hope is gone, life is like a broken winged bird that cannot fly. And as in one of my poems, I said, wrap hope in your bosom and never let it go. Because when hope is gone, nothing is left. So we're hopeful in Rhode Island. Having said that, though, I want to lift up and to make known that there are so many families in Rhode Island that are struggling. So many families right here in my district that are struggling, children and families. So many pre-COVID who were shut out of opportunities. So many families right here in Rhode Island who are working up to 80 hours a week and they're still living in poverty. So I see the state of Rhode Island as being hopeful, right? We have a new governor and we're looking forward to great and amazing things. But I want to call out and to make known that we should not relent from lifting up the voices of the poor, lifting up the voices of people who are living in poverty and extreme poverty, if I should say. So while hopeful, we have to continue to lift those voices up, because those are the voices that are not in the corridors of power and are not represented in the State House. And so every single day that I go there, I want to make sure that I'm lifting up those voices and I'm making known that people are struggling, and we have got to do that. We've got to fix that too.
That's good, Rep. Rep, first of all, you were fighting for that. You started in Rhode Island with a $15 minimum wage.
Yes.
And now you heard the situation from the bill just now. They decided to sit that out. So could you talk about that?
You know, when I ran for office in 2016, I ran not because I was so much into politics or I wanted to be a politician. It was none of that. I was so far removed from politics. But a young man, his name is Kip Stewart, he got shot and killed. And one of my sons came home and said, Mom, they shot Kip. Kip died a day or two later. And I started running because I thought that we can pass good common sense gun safety laws. When I started knocking on doors, on your door, and so many neighbors' doors, all I kept saying, we've got to pass good common sense gun safety laws. And as I started knocking, I will never forget, I was knocking on a street, 2 streets from my house, Lubeck. And this man and his wife was coming from the store, and that's a store that you could get things at a little more affordable prices. And they said to me, we could not get everything that we wanted at the store, although both of us were. And right there on the spot, I developed my second platform, which was a fight for $15 an hour. I should say $15 an hour, it's the floor right now. It is not the ceiling. We need to really work hard to ensure that families who are going to work night and day and night, up to 80 hours a week, they can pay their bills. I was listening to the president today, and what he said in his $1.9 trillion dollar budget that the Senate just passed, he said half of children in America are food insecure. They are going to bed hungry. And so one of the bills that I have lifted up since 2016 is a bill to make sure that we end lunch shaming in Rhode Island. I don't believe that children should be going to bed hungry. I also believe that it's a moral imperative that we feed poor children and we feed poor people. And also know that kids cannot learn unless they are fed. It's the Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's the physiological needs that must be met. And so I am so delighted to see, because check this out, Rodney. When I started talking about a $15 living wage in 2016, that was seen as a very radical idea, a progressive idea, a radical idea that happens in Rhode Island. Fast forward to 2021. Now we're talking about it nationally, but we're also talking about it here in Rhode Island. And so, the amazing thing that happens when you elect regular people in the General Assembly, they bring regular concerns of the poor, concerns of people who are struggling every day. And so I brought that to the State House. And I think right now we're poised, I think, to pass a $15 living wage. But let me say this. I said it before and I'm going to say it again. That is the floor. It's not the ceiling. We should be around $25.10 right now if we're caught up to inflation. We have work to do. I see children and families every single day who are struggling just to make ends meet. We've got to do a better job addressing the needs of poverty. And let me say this as well. This was before COVID. And COVID, as we all know, has decimated the Black and Brown communities. And so we've got to lift families up. We've got to do that by lifting up and paying attention to small businesses. We know that small businesses will employ more people than fat cats and corporations. And so we have got to address those issues.
Marcia, you talk about your student who got killed.
Yeah.
That also motivated you to start your program against weapons and guns and stuff like that. Could you talk about that a little bit too? Because I remember that was one of the bills you passed against guns.
Well, I want to say this very clearly. Every now and then I have people say, "You're trying to take our guns." No, I am not trying to take anyone's gun that holds it legally. What I am trying to do, and what gun sense champions like myself is trying to do, is to say, we want legal guns into the hands of people who should have them. So I want to be abundantly clear on that. Last week around this time, one of the route that I walk every single day when I'm able to, we had a young man. He was 19 years old. I didn't know the young man. And my prayers and my love go out to his family. He was shot and killed, maybe 5 minutes from my house. We have got to address the issue of hopelessness with young people. We need to secure sustainable, high-paying jobs for families. See, what I think the problem is sometimes we tend to give one family a job or 2 families a job. That's not good enough. We have got to seek out and to find especially young Black and brown men who are losing hope. They can't see nothing in front of them. And we have got to address their concerns, the trauma that they're facing, their mental, emotional needs. And we've got to say to them, we've got your back. And how do we do that? We do that by being bold. We do that by creating high paying, sustainable jobs. We do that by investing boldly into the infrastructure of our schools. The bottom line is this: there is a lot of conversation about Black Lives Matter. Black lives only matter when we invest boldly in our community that are predominantly Black and brown indigenous people. We have got to do that. Unless we do that, we're literally skating around the issue. And we're going to be sadly, and I can't do it. I cannot do it. I have lost my own students to gun violence. And that is why my bills and the bills that I sponsor or co-sponsor, they're asking for good common sense mitigation strategies to end this bloodletting, to end the homicides, to end the killing. Because see, when a young person dies, it's 2 families that are impacted. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. But we have to be bold. And we have to value Black lives. And we have to value brown lives. And that is the only way we can address these inequalities.
Yep. Thank you, Rev. Branching off from that, what's the situation about COVID-19 and the vaccine situation in Rhode Island?
You know, first of all, I am so grateful that teachers are now in that the group of people, for want of a better word or phrase, who can now receive the vaccine. I have been calling for teachers to get this vaccine for months now. I've been publicly calling for us to use a strategic and targeted approach to vaccinating people. What I have said, we need to look, and this is not last week, by the way, Rodney. It's not, I've been saying this for months. But sometimes when you're a Black woman like myself, we do not always get the respect and the dignity for our smartness, unless oftentimes it's repackaged and presented by other people. So I've been calling for a long time. I said, go to the targeted areas and let's vaccinate children and families. Let's vaccinate the frontline workers is really what I meant to say. And so I am so grateful that the president have called on to vaccinate teachers, frontline workers, and school staff. And so in Rhode Island, I am so thrilled to know that the governor, our new governor, is also on board with that. Make no mistake, vaccination is a justice issue and an equity issue. So we've got to find the people that are on the front line and the people that have been impacted the most and get those people vaccine. And if we do that, I think we can get our summer this summer. And I need my summer. And you do too, by the way.
Yeah, you Rev. Rev, you're a school teacher too.
Yeah.
So with all this money coming for COVID-19, this was one of my questions too. So since we're talking about COVID-19, let me just throw it right in there too. So we're talking about the situation with the COVID-19, and
Mm-hmm.
we want to know how would this funding that just passed help to ameliorate the problems you're facing in high schools with safety and also with the teachers' safety. I mean, with the mask situation
Mm-hmm.
and safe spacing and all of that. How are you going to use that bill?
So,
Financially?
thank you for that question. What a great question. So you know that we have been out of school, and I have been out for not doing physically well. Just making the best outside. And we had this interview arranged before I got sick. So I wanted to honor that and to be on here this evening. But before let me just step back and say one of the things that I know, being in the classroom, is that there have been a lot of learning loss. So much learning loss with distance learning. So many loss with, I mean, you talk about kids going back to school. In Rhode Island, we have been back to school. We are using a hybrid model. There's the A day and there's the B day. So in the larger schools and even a small school like mine at EQ, we don't have the full complement of all our students there just because we wanted to practice what we preach in terms of social distancing. What we have done in our schools is that we have used a lot of that CARES Act money to do PPEs, to do some ventilation, not enough, I should say. And that is why 4 years ago, I introduced a bill to ensure that there are ventilation and air quality standards in Rhode Island public schools. I should let you know that right now there is no standard and we have a ventilation problem. And I introduced a bill 4 years in a row to pre-COVID to address the issue of ventilation in our schools. And now everyone is talking about it, right? So some of that money can also be used on ventilation, on mask. But one of the nice things I think also, it can be used in after school programs for that to mitigate that learning loss.
Yeah.
So if we are wise, it can also be used in added equipment. Another bill that I introduced last year, it sounds like I have a bill for everything.
And it's all coming to fruition.
Right. But it's also what happens when you bring regular people who are in the trenches every single day. When you bring them in government, they're able to advocate for the masses, right? So one of the issues that I saw last spring, and we're seeing it so much now, is because so many kids are online learning, they don't have access to reliable internet services. And so I was just reading something today, a part of the CARES Act, we can actually use some of those money for free internet access. And I know every time I say this, someone says, oh, well, the city provides some hotspots. And I always respond by saying, that is so great. We really need that. But think about it. If a mom, a dad, and 5 kids are at home and they're using that one hotspot, that's not going to be so reliable. And I know from my personal experience interacting with families, calling them on the phone, speaking to mom and dad, they cannot get on. So if we use this money wisely in Rhode Island and not just throw it to administration and throw it to salaries, but invest it in our children, I think we will see the fruits of our labor. But we've got to use it wisely. We have got to say, where are the needs? And we've got to address those.
Thank you, Reb. Reb, we'll take a minute break and come back so you can get a drink or something to wet your mouth and whistle. So we'll start again when I come back, okay?
Thank you so much.
We'll be
I
back.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, Reb. We'll be back in 1 minute.
Thank you.
Well, we're back, and we thank our viewers for being here as well. So, Representative Marcia Ranglin-VASSELL, can we
Okay.
continue this? Can we continue this interview?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
You're welcome. So, Rep, we talk about the COVID-19 now.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you are a representative for a diverse community, you
Mm-hmm.
are also the representative of the Black community as well, all
Yes.
over Rhode Island. So let's talk about the Black community a little bit. What's the situation? First, let's do the state first. What's the situation with businesses in the state first?
So,
How are how are they impacted by the COVID-19, and what sort of restoration have they had to help restore their businesses? Funding in terms of funding.
so I can tell you that when small businesses and when Black businesses thrive, the community thrives. I can tell you that. I can tell you that pre COVID, what COVID did was really rip the scab off a really bad problem or a bad sore. Let me just say it like it's coming to me. I apologize if anyone is having dinner right now. Inequalities that we're seeing as it relates to investment in Black businesses is not new. And again, I think it goes back to the value or the lack thereof that the power, the status quo, and the powers that be, and the people that have the leverage over the money places on Black businesses. I was looking at some data before I came onto the show, and I saw that there 18% of Black businesses reported receiving little or no technical assistance from loan officers during through the CARES Act money.
Wow.
Other statistic that I grabbed also said only 170 Black-owned businesses have employees.
Hmm.
I want to just share with your viewers and your listeners that, as I said before, when Black businesses thrive, our community thrives as well. What the implications of that are: one, we'll see increase in job creation. We will also see more money spent in our local communities. See, when Black businesses thrive, and I'm saying this over and over again, it's repetition because I really want us to get it cerebrally. When Black business thrive, they employ more people from the community. We also see reductions in unemployment and reduction in criminal activity. So it's a win-win for everybody. We cannot leave our Black and brown businesses behind. And it's going to take more than platitudes. It's going to take more than I'm just going to help one business over here or another business over there. This calls for robust investment in our Black and brown communities and in the communities that were impacted way before COVID hit us. So we've got to do a better job at really addressing the issue of poverty, which lies in the unequal distribution of wealth. We've got to close that wealth gap. And we do that through job creation and home ownership.
Your sister is also president, chairman of the Rhode Island Black Business Association.
Yes.
I think she has the most organized advocacy business for Black businesses.
Yes.
You talk about the problems. What are specific problems that Lisa is facing with the Black business that you know of?
So what I do know of, remember I talked about, the issue of the disrespect for Black women and
Yeah.
Black people in general.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And also the want to, and I say want to, silencing of Black voices. So my sister Lisa Ranglin, as you know, she's the president of the Rhode Island Black Business Association. And
Yeah.
she's been at this for 10 years. The data will show, it's public knowledge, that the kinds of money that the Rhode Island Black businesses get from, whether it be the Commerce Corporation or any kind of government entity in the state of Rhode Island, is less than a drop in the bucket compared to white-led organizations. And so there's a lot of conversations about Black Lives Matter. And what I say, if Black Lives Matter, like you say, start showing us. Start showing us by investing robustly in our community. The only organization that is established to address the issues of Black businesses in Rhode Island is underfunded. And that is not okay. So if we, as a General Assembly, is serious about dismantling systemic racism and structural poverty, then we have to address these inequities. And it cannot just be, like taking the plantation off the state name and everything is going to be fine and we're going to have a kumbaya moment. It doesn't work like that. It works when we are serious about dismantling these oppressive systems and structures that keep Black people down. And the state of Rhode Island and the powers that be in the General Assembly needs to step up, and we need to address these structural problems of inequality.
Have your district been impacted by redistricting?
I don't want to jinx myself.
But I mean, not only you, but other people.
I don't want to jinx myself.
Nobody's gonna jinx
Something
you.
else.
Nobody's gonna jinx you. I mean, because this is what Republicans are doing now.
I think I'm gonna take a drink.
Yeah, this is what Republicans are doing in other states now to hold the votes, because Black people in the majority vote for Democrat. So the more the black votes, they're blacking out one section, one major section of Democratic votes. So this is the fab around the country. So
Yes.
where you stand on that?
Well, we have to make sure that people have access to vote. There's blood in the ground right now for the right to vote. And so we're paying attention. I am paying attention. And, we just had an election last year, and I am sure that people are watching. But I want to put all of us a notice that we're watching too. And we are going to do every single thing that we can do in our power to secure the vote in Rhode Island. I was looking through some journals over the course of this week, and I was looking at some of the data before I ran for office in 2016. And those numbers are like sorry numbers. One polling station had 6 votes. And when I ran, and what we did, we brought more people into the fold. We registered more voters, because people have to have a say in their government. I firmly believe that. And so it's not just registering people to vote, but also I think it's protecting the vote. And so we're going to be watching, and we're going to do everything that we can do. I am going to do everything that I can do that is in my power to ensure that we have access to the ballot box.
Rep, you're a family woman. We always hear you talking about mom.
Yes.
I call your house. I heard your little grandson
I
giving you.
know.
So, what's the situation of elder and young people, in children, babies? What's the situation with them in this era of change we're facing?
You know, when I say this is a very, very simple answer to that. When you care about people and you lift one family member up in one household, you're lifting all the family members up. When you lift the community up, you're lifting all of us up. So whether it be access to doulas for women or childbearing age, so they're not dying just having to take care to they're not dying just trying to have babies, or you're making sure that there is childcare, an affordable childcare, an accessible childcare, or you're addressing the needs of seniors, making sure if they have a contract that wasn't at home in solicitation. I'm getting my tongue twisted here. You can always disband that contract if it was unwarranted. The bottom line is this: government has to do its job. Government's job, I will contend, is to ensure that it takes care of its most vulnerable. Our most vulnerable are our seniors and our little ones. We must also address the need of the homeless. You know, I ministered in a homeless shelter for 6 years at the Urban League of Rhode Island. And what I saw was 50 men that I shared the gospel of Jesus Christ to. And many of those men were leaving the homeless shelter and they were leaving at 6 to go to work. Why were they doing that? They could not afford rent. And while the husband was in the men's shelter, the children and the wife was in the women's shelter. And that is why I am so thrilled and I'm over the moon excited that the House passed a source of income bill this week. So families can't be discriminated if they have, say, Section 8. So we have got to do a better job just taking care of families. Families is not just a random thing. Families are children, mom, dad, mom, grandparents. It's all of us that is in this together. And so we have to address these structural inequalities that really keeps family down. But I talked a little earlier on about hope. And as a Christian, I have so much hope. I have so much hope believing that our best days are ahead of us. But it's not going to happen magically. It's going to happen when we roll up our sleeves and we speak truth to power. So many of us are afraid to speak the truth, to say that our communities are not supported because of systemic racism. And until we can address the issue and root out the racism that's in our hearts, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. But we've got to take care of children. We've got to take care of families. And we're not going to do that by a magic wand. It's going to take place when, number one, lawmakers and the powers that be start valuing people, start saying, these are my brothers and these are my sisters. And we're all God's children. And we deserve to be treated with respect. We deserve to be treated with dignity. Only then, it doesn't matter what the rhetoric says. I'm done with that. We have got to put in the work and to show that we're serious about Black Lives Matter.
Before I forget, Marcia, your mother is advanced in her age. How is she
Mhm.
doing?
So you must not have heard that I lost mom.
Gosh,
Yes. I lost my mom, Rodney. Well, it's COVID and there's so many things happening in all of our lives.
it's
Don't
all right. We didn't hear about that, Marcia.
Yeah, don't feel badly. We lost mom on her birthday, the same day she turned 92.
Oh,
We
Lord.
her. And for a while I was mourning my mom because mom has been so close to me. As you know, I would leave work every day and I would go over and cook for her, and I would spend weekends over there. And her loss was the most profound thing that has ever happened to me. And I was mourning mom. It's been 4 months, and I was mourning her loss. And I had a dream, and she was in my room. She's constantly in my room, actually.
Wow.
She said to me, "You got to stop mourning. You got to start celebrating. You've got to start celebrating that I was here."
Yep.
And I did all that I had to do. I was here for 92 years.
Yep.
So now you and your siblings have got to take up that mantle and run with it. And so I am not mourning anymore. I miss mom dearly, but I can hear her all the time. And in the moments that it gets like really hard for me, Rodney, I can hear her saying, "Mar, they don't know you. Just keep it." Because every now and then somebody thinks that they can target me for unfair treatment or unfair or inequity or something.
Discrimination and all that.
Yeah, and I can hear mommy saying, "Mar, keep going." And so I'm going to continue fighting this fight that is set before me. I am going to continue fighting because I know with the deepest conviction that my best days are ahead of me. And not just my best days, but Rhode Islanders, our best days are ahead of us.
Good to hear that, Marcia. That's some encouraging message. So now we have a new governor. I'm sure you're
Mhm,
well familiar with the governor, Dan McKee. So,
mhm.
how's your relationship with him in the first place?
So I know the governor, I know of the governor. We've met in passing. I have been out, just taking care of myself, trying to center my body and mind and spirit. So since he's going to be inaugurated soon, but he's now our governor. I haven't had a chance to talk to him. But once I am well enough and I'm back on my feet, so to speak, I will say to the governor, "Governor, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here." I will talk to him about the budget, which is our moral document of how we treat each other and how we treat our neighbors and how we treat the poorest and the neediest amongst us. I will also have a conversation with the governor about my bill to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I'll also have a conversation with the governor about passing the package of gun bills. I'll also have a conversation with the governor about passing something that is really near and dear to my heart. It's a doula bill. It's access to doulas, making sure that women are not dying just trying to have babies. I also want to talk to the governor about our deep and robust investment in small businesses. We have to address that. We have to address it. And I have to give a shout out to our new speaker. He hit the road running, and we've passed the source of income bill.
Who's the speaker now, Marcia?
Speaker Shikarchi. And he has laid out a package of bill last week. I'm yet to delve deeper into all of that to address the housing crisis. And so I am very confident that with our new leadership, we are on the mend in terms of the social and economic disparities. I am confident and I feel very hopeful that this new governor, Dan McKee, is going to use his office wisely and not squander the opportunity that is placed in his hands to take care of the homeless, to take care of the most vulnerable, to take care of children, and to take care of moms and dads and seniors. I am very hopeful. When hope dies, nothing is left. And so once I am back on my feet again, I'll be speaking with the governor and we'll have a conversation, not about me, but about my neighbors, about the children that I represent, the children that I am so blessed to teach every single day, the mothers who call me on the phone all the time because they're facing an eviction of some sort. We need to build the housing stock, and I know the speaker is committed to that. So, Ronnie, there's a lot of work to do, but I am ready. I am so ready to continue this work and to continue this fight for justice. Fighting for justice is in my DNA. It's what I do. It's what I have done for 45 years. Before anyone in Rhode Island knew my name, I was fighting for running water. I was fighting for transportation in my country, in my community that is still poor. And that is why I continue to pay it forward by going to Jamaica every single year. And last year I could not go, but I made sure I send money down with the help of my neighbors. We were able to send 800 US dollars down to Jamaica to feed the kids in the summer lunch enrichment program. So the work, you know, the Bible says that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. And I am so grateful that I am in his vineyard, fighting for the poor, fighting for the people that some consider not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. I am so glad to be here and to do this work on behalf of my neighbors here in House District 5, but also in Rhode Island and by extension in my homeland in Jamaica.
That's so true, Marcia. We see you working all the time with these bills and things. Putting that in that way, I try to bring up some of your bills that are being proposed now on a national scale.
Yeah.
That we started on a still state level. So you started talking about Jamaica. We also know you have a nonprofit organization that focuses on developing people in your country, in your home country. Tell us about that.
Well, Barrels, Books, and Butterflies is what I named this mission. And why barrels? Because we always put books and school supplies in the barrel. Barrels, books, and butterflies. Butterflies because I really love butterflies. And if you talk to a lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, I love butterflies." But butterflies were once caterpillars.
Yeah.
And not too many people say they're caterpillars. Right? So I love butterflies. And so what my project does is for the last 25 years, I've been going back to Jamaica every year to run a summer camp there. And I say to my friends for the last 25 years, when it's my birthday, do not give me any gifts. Don't give me shoes, don't give me pocketbooks, don't give me scarves. I don't need anything. Donate books and school supplies to children in Jamaica, and that would be my gift. The truth of the matter is, I remember as a little girl growing up in Jamaica, Mom and Dad always made sure that we had the basic books, the reading book, and we had the books to write in. I didn't have a bag until I was in a book bag until I was in high school. And how I ended up getting that book bag was my oldest brother, who plays cricket. He didn't need the bag anymore, so he handed it down to me. So one of the things that I like to do, I like to pay it forward. Education is the great equalizer. Education is the reason I am speaking to you, and I'm so grateful that you have me on this evening.
Thank you.
Only because of education. And I would be remiss, I'd be such a hypocrite if I escaped the ghetto and didn't go back to get those little boys and girls living there. The truth of the matter, Rodney, if one of us is free because we escaped the plantation, none of us is free if others are still there.
Yep.
And so my work in Jamaica centers on ensuring that children are fed, ensuring that they have their books and they have their school supplies. I also sponsor a little boy there as well, separate from everything else. I am also partnering with the Jamaica Association of Rhode Island that is run by my brother Desmond. You should have Desmond on one day.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. We'll talk about it.
And yeah, so you wonder, why do you guys do so much? It's in our DNA. It started, blame my mom and dad, who was bringing in people in our house and starting a preschool in 1963 when he himself didn't know how to read or write.
And the church?
And the church that is still running. From our 2-room board house, he put a tarp, and that was where I learned to read by my first teacher is a deaconess in the church, Sister Fisher. She's in heaven, God bless her. So our family we learn from our parents to give back and to give back and to give back. And so Desmond, and you're going to have him on, I'm sure, he is doing something right now with getting Chromebooks for children in Jamaica and tablets because they're also out of school. And so their education is stopped right now. Over 70% of the children in Jamaica right now, in my neighborhood, are not in school.
Which part of Jamaica are you from? Because a lot of people go to Jamaica from here.
Right.
So
the part of Jamaica that I am from, a lot of people will not go there. Because not many people would want to go to the ghetto.
Okay.
I'm from Bull Bay. Bull Bay is 11 miles out of Kingston. I've walked back and forth to Kingston so many times when we have no transportation. So that's how close we are. But Bull Bay is a very poor community. But it's plagued with poverty and gun violence. But the people are just so resilient. And it's the same community that cradled me that I can be on your show today. So we are collecting, Desmond is collecting and I'm collecting. In fact, someone who saw what I was doing on Twitter sent a check today for $250. I haven't met the man. I don't know him, but he's on my Twitter and he's a Rhode Islander. I know that enough. And he's donated $250 for the purchase of Chromebooks. So you'll have Desmond and he'll talk a lot about that. But I cannot tell you, Rodney, just how grateful I am to serve. I can't tell you. I am constantly thinking, what am I going to do for my people? You know, what am I going to do for the moms and the dads and who are not on your show, right? Or not in the state house, but they need a strong advocate. And I am so blessed that God has chosen me in this time, in this moment, to stand up and fight. And I've got to be honest with you. Let me just say this before I forget. Fighting for justice is exhausting.
Tell me about it.
Fighting for justice is exhausting. And you are every day in this battle, you become emotionally depleted and physically depleted. But you always have to go back to that source. And for me, the source is my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is the master of my life. And every now and then I say to him, God, I said I wanted to help after you healed me, after, but you didn't tell me that it was going to be so much.
You got what you asked for, MARCIA.
And every time I say that, Rodney, he says, my grace is sufficient to keep you.
Yeah.
I get up and I keep going. So for the believers that are listening to my voice right now, I don't ask for a whole lot, but can I ask you just one thing? When you pray, please say a prayer for MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL, State Rep of House District 5. Also say a prayer for my husband, Van Vassell, and my family. Because when someone takes up the mantle and runs for office and begins to serve, their entire family serves with them. And they get to hear the sorrows and the pain and the stresses. So I crave your prayers. If there's anything in the world that you can do, pray for me. Pray for my strength, that God will lead me in his paths of righteousness.
Well, you got an opportunity to say that before we close. This is your time to tell us what you want to say.
And can I just say one more thing? If you want to learn more about me,
say what you got to say, MARCIA. Say anything you got to say before we close.
Follow me on Facebook, Rep MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL, and I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn. Go to my website, marcia4ri.com, and make a donation or volunteer in this fight for justice. God bless you. We're in this together. Let's stay in the fight. Thank you so much, Rodney, for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, Rep. I'm sure we have follow-up interviews from this. So whatever I missed on this interview,
yes,
I hope we can do it during your continual appearance on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Give my love to Karen.
Will do. And we got to educate our people about the community. If we don't go out there from you at the top and other representatives explaining what's going on for us, we may get false news. We may get rumors. So we need the fact. And it's good that you can come out here and we get those questions that matter, and you give us good explanation of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Rep. And we thank you again for showing up with us, and we look forward to having you on the show again soon.
Thank you. Take good care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for spending some time with us and listen to our interview with Rhode Island State Representative for House District Number 5, MARCIA RANGLIN-VASSELL. We look forward to having her again, and we thank you all for joining us. And I must take leave at this time. Aluta! Continue. Have a good day.